a verse in Psalm. It's Psalm 139, 13 through 15. And it says, "For you created my utmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, and I know that full and well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth." So basically, this verse is saying that God created us in our mother's womb. Before we even knew, before our parents even knew that we were going to come about, God created us and knit us together piece by piece. Every part of us, He created us wonderfully. And the next slide is the same verse, but it's a different translation. And it says, "I praise you because you made me in such a wonderful way. I know how amazing that was." And it was amazing that God made you. And He made you wonderfully. So, the next part of the song is verse 2, and Taylor will be talking about that a little bit.
Okay, so the next part of the song is verse 2, and it says, "There is a healing light just beyond the clouds. Though I've walked through fire, I see clearly now." You can change it. Okay, so we all have clouds above us. Clouds of depression, anxiety, insecurities, fear, shame, guilt, and many other things. But God's healing light will shine through the clouds that are over our heads. So this is one of my favorite verses. It's Isaiah 58:8. "Then your light will break forth like the dawn, and your healing will quickly appear." So in this picture, the clouds represent the clouds that are over our heads every day with things like depression, anxiety, and many other things. And that's God's light shining through. And if you see, the light shining through the clouds is beautiful, because when God's light shines through our dark days and our clouds, it's beautiful. So the next one is Ecclesiastes 3:11. "He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end." So here's another picture of the sun shining through the clouds, and it's beautiful, right? Everyone likes sunsets with clouds and everything. So that's what God sees when He is shining His light through our clouds. So one of my favorite parts of this verse is, "Yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end." Because we can't understand what He's doing now, or what He's doing before, or what He's going to do in the future. Because our humanness and our human brains just can't understand it. And so we don't understand it, but God knows. God knows before we were even in our mom's womb. He knew what He was doing, and He knew everything about our lives. So we can trust that He knows what He's doing, even if our human brains can't understand that. And this is Isaiah 43:2. So this goes along with, "Though I've walked through fire, I see clearly now. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze." So whenever we go through things, God will not let us fall. We may stumble, and we may feel like He's not there with us, but He is there with us, even if we can't see it. Just like there are days when the clouds cover the sun and we can't see the sun very well, but it is there. Just like God is there with us, even if we can't see Him at all times. And the next one is Matt Coons.
Good morning, everybody. All right. So, who is having a good day? Yes. Awesome. All right. So, we're going to start us off with a quick story here. So, first, introductions. this lady right here, her name is Corey, and Ten Boom is actually their last name. It's 2 words. But then that's also her. We'll get to that later. But then that's her sister, Betsy. So this story takes place in World War II. They lived in Holland, I think, wherever Amsterdam is, but it's like over there somewhere. So they, as a family, lived there, World War II. And at this time, the Nazis were taking and rounding up the Jews and sending them to concentration camps. So God put it on their hearts to take and build this little shelter in their closet that they took, and they were able to hide Jews in and help them escape the Nazi raids from taking them to concentration camps. So they had this whole operation set up with them and their dad, and they had a clock business, but that's kind of just their out front picture. Anyway, they had this set up, and then one day they get raided, and these girls and their father get taken to a concentration camp, right? So they get to this concentration camp. It's one of many concentration camps out there, but it was by far one of the worst concentration camps you could possibly be sent to. So they were sent here, and they got to the barracks, and the first thing they noticed was there's fleas everywhere. Fleas are like these little tiny bugs, but in large quantities, they can bite you and scratch you and like really not make things pleasant, all right? So these fleas are everywhere, all right? But through their trip there, they were able to smuggle in a Bible, and that Bible they were able to use throughout their stay at the concentration camp. But there were guards at their barracks, which would take, and were supposed to make a routine search of the barracks. That way people didn't have things like Bibles and other things that people weren't supposed to have. But due to the fleas, the guards wouldn't take their routine search because, Steve, do you like fleas? Does anybody here want to like fleas at all? So would you like walking through a room full of fleas? A gigantic room stuffed with fleas? I don't think anybody would like that. So the guards were like, no, I'm dipping. I'm not doing that. So they got to keep their Bible because of the fleas. And the guards wouldn't search the area. And so these fleas, God used these little tiny bugs that everybody absolutely hates to provide a way for these girls to take and preach the gospel in a heavily, forbidden area. They didn't want them doing that. The guards didn't want them preaching, but they didn't want fleas more. So God used a simple thing like fleas to take and help provide a way and an opportunity for these wonderful women to take and shine God's light. So I think we can go to the next slide. All right, so move on to the chorus. The chorus of the song is, you make all things work together for my future and for my good. You make all things work together for the glory of your name. So, yeah, God takes and he does that. So if you go there, all right. So the first section we have is God take you. Wow. All right, you make all things work together. All right. So the lack of the guards provided an opportunity, and God was able to take all the things that even people hate and have them work together for His good and help people spread His gospel and His good news. All right, and then we have for my future and my good. So the impact of the story, The Hiding Place, they actually wrote a book called The Hiding Place. So if you ever want to read it, listen to it, or listen to a dramatized version, it's all pretty great. But the impact of The Hiding Place alone, it has touched thousands of people's lives and really impacted a lot of people out there. And he has used it for the good of these women here, and it has helped them grow in their relationship with him. All right, and then we have, you make all things work together for your glory and your name. So in this situation, God ultimately is glorified by the women spreading his gospel and helping teach other fellow inmates, I guess, if you want to call it that, in concentration camp. But he was able to take and use it to glorify him and help expand his kingdom. All right, so to go with that, we have Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for the good of those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. That is Romans 8:28. We moved on the slide. All right, so later in the song, like towards the end, we have, you are not finished with me yet. We repeat that a couple times. Anyway, God is not finished ever teaching us. I can bet that Dan here is still learning stuff, right? Steve, are you still learning stuff? Mr. Steve, my bad. Mr. Steve. Anyway, we're all still learning stuff. Whether we're young. Sawyer, are you still learning stuff? Yeah. We're all still learning stuff. And these women were in their 40s, late 40s, and 50s when this entire operation started. And then they continued hiding Jews from the Nazis for a couple of years. So they were in their later years, or like halfway through, when this entire situation came about, and it continued on. And Corrie ten Boom, the main lady here, she continued to get, after the concentration camps, after she was released, she continued to give sermons and like share with everybody else her story. And she's still learning. All right, and then we have these trials will show you that your faith is genuine. It is being tested as fire tests and purifies gold, though your faith is far more precious than mere gold. That is 1 Peter 1:7 part A. But that kind of just says that fires and tribulations you go through really test and build you up as a human being, and every fire and trouble you go through will take and build you a little bit more. There's like no pain, no gain. It's like whatever hurts builds character, if you know what I mean. And then we have, yet you, Lord, are our Father, and we are the clay, you are the potter, and we are all the work of your hand. Yeah, that's Isaiah 64:8. All right, so if we go back to our clay story and the potter, we have, so when you take and you make clay, a clay pot, I think I'm going a little bit long, but you put it on a wheel, you spin the pot around, and you form this bowl, cup, jar, or pot, whatever you want, and then you put it in a fire, which basically refines it and makes it a hard piece that you can then use. So going through the fire tests it and makes it better and more usable. And yes, that is right about it, and I believe we have Taylor to do the next section of the song.
Hello? Sorry. So when we were going through what parts each of us were going to talk about, this was personally my favorite part of the song because I have a lot of doubts, and I know that everybody else has a lot of doubts. And we have doubts about our family, our friends, ourselves, and sometimes even God. And it's completely normal to have doubts as a human, but God wants us to put away and put aside our humanness and really be able to trust Him and know that He is doing good for us and He is working for us. Okay, so all of these pictures here, God created. So there's the beautiful sunset again. This waterfall, I was trying to find the word. The Grand Canyon and a lake with mountains. So God created this, all of these beautiful things. Yet sometimes we still question if He can do anything good with our lives. So when we look at these, just if you really think like how amazing these pictures are and how amazing like the view is, just remember that the same God that created those things is also working in your life and is creating you to be just like Him. So when we doubt, all we need to do is just trust Him and remember that He created everything, so He surely can help us in our lives and make us into something beautiful. Okay, so this is Ephesians 1:18. I pray that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened in order that you may know the hope to which he has called you, the riches of his glorious inheritance on his holy people. So I really like this verse for doubting, because it starts off with I pray, so you can use it in a prayer or just read it every day. And it's just a prayer to ask God that he can open your eyes and that you could see clearly and that you could see the big picture, even if our human brains can't really understand the big picture, because all we can see is this small little piece of our life, that he knows what he's doing and that we just have to trust him and truly and clearly see what he's doing in our lives.
All right, so the last part of the bridge is, I know nothing has been wasted, no failure or mistake. You're an artist and a potter, I'm the canvas and the clay. So this is basically just saying that although we make mistakes, although sometimes we fail, God always uses those mistakes and all the things that we have done for good, and he uses those to glorify him. And it's just saying one more time that he is the artist and we are his masterpiece, and he is the potter and we are the clay. And sometimes, like Matt said, we're going to have to go through fires, but it's going to make us stronger. Like clay goes into the kiln and it hardens. You know, when we go through that fire, when we go through the harder times and we stay strong in our faith, we're only going to get stronger. We have a testimony. Matt's going to do his real quick, and then I'm going to do mine, and then we're going to wrap it up.